Okay, we're going to do the symbolism of the Mukabele today, because you're just sort of getting to the stage in your training where it's starting to look like a Mukabele, and you'll want to know what all the different details of it mean. And as I've said before, the whole ceremony is sort of like a book, and it's like, for myself, the whole of the Mukabele teaching is all contained very simply within the Mukabele, and the whole of the non-dual teaching. So it is an amazing thing, and the more you dance it, the more you get this sort of inner understanding of it, which is not really verbal. But the whole significance of it is amazing, and every single bit of it sort of has symbolism and significance. And I'll do a run through it, but I'll probably miss bits out accidentally, so Helen can also put other bits in if I forget them. And the actual ceremony begins when you wash your feet downstairs in the changing room. So once you've washed your feet, you're it's almost like you're in the ceremony, so you're in a special state of attention, and you don't after you've washed your feet, you don't go and play table football, for instance, because you're getting ready for the ceremony. And then, as you might not even know yet, we collect our robes from there and the different bits and pieces. And then before the Mukabele, we go up that little spiral staircase there, and we meet in the East Studio. But at the moment, in your case, you're all already going upstairs and robing in the actual room itself. And the actual place, the building where the dervish is turning, is known as a teke, and the actual turning floor, which should be circular, is known as a semahane, which really sort of means place of the dance. And after you've robed and you've just sort of been learning your robing, then the dervishes file up outside on the landing, outside the semahane, outside the door. And when you start doing that, you'll notice that the sheikh goes down and prays on a carpet just on the inside of the door, and that's known as kneeling on the threshold. And while the sheikh's doing that, the samazan bashi, and samazan means dance and bashi means head, so it basically translates as head dancer. The head dancer takes the red sheepskin rug in and lays it at the foot of the picture. And the picture says, Ya Hazreti Mevlana, may God keep his secret. And the red sheepskin is red for several reasons. One, red is the colour of passion, and another reason is on the day Rumi died, I think it was around about 1272 or 3, and there was this amazing red sky apparently in Konya, so it's also the symbol of that. And his teacher, Shems of Tabriz, was also called the son of Tabriz. So again, the red colour of the sheepskin is a sort of symbol of the sun, and of the son of Tabriz, and of the universal consciousness. And in the East, it's normally traditional for holy men to sit on an animal skin. So in Tibet, yogis often will sit on a tiger skin, and in India they often sit on a tiger skin. So it's sort of a tradition that goes back. And so then the samazan bashi will come back, he'll lay the tiger skin down, say some prayers, and the sheepskin, sorry, I'd like a tiger skin. Or even better, a snow leopard skin. But never mind. And then they come back out again. And then each dervish in turn bows into the room, and the act of, you look up at the calligraphy and you bow to it, and you look back up at it, and then you move into the room. And the act of bowing is known as bashkazmak. And bashkazmak translates as chopping off the head. And what that represents is you're letting go of your day-to-day identity. So you're letting go of the I am something. And because it's such an incredibly difficult thing to do, as you're gradually all discovering, it's not easy. You have to let go of your individual self and hand over to something much larger than yourself, so that you're still alive at the end of it. So it's like you let go of whoever you are, because some people get very identified with their particular roles in life or their titles, and you even meet people sometimes who will say to you, "Do you know who I am?" And so it's letting go of that. It doesn't matter who you are, you just drop it. And that's also why we all wear the same clothes, and because we don't want to, none of us want to stand out. In the ceremony, we've dropped that "do you know who I am" identity, and none of us want to stand out, so we all look the same. We all have the same robes and the same shirt and the same cloak and the same hat. So that's really important. So that's the beginning of it, is bowing into the room and chopping off your head. And as I said, to get through the ceremony, it's very difficult to do it under your own steam. Again, you're discovering that. At some point, you have to hand over to something much larger than yourself to get you through it. And that's really sort of what the Mukabele is like, because the journey of life is exactly the same. At a certain point, you think, I just can't get through this. And then there's almost a moment of surrender in life, and you hand over to something. Anyway, the dervishes all file in, and then you sit down on the red carpet, and a hymn is sung called the Naat, and the Naat really just sort of tells the story of the Prophet Muhammad and Rumi and other saints. And there are certain points in the Naat which Helen will explain to you in your lessons, where you bow when the name Ya Hazreti Mevlana is said, and the name Shems of Tabriz, and the name Mustafa Muhammad, or it will sometimes be Muhammad Mustafa. So we just sort of quietly listen to the Naat. And all of this sort of quiet preparation is really important, because when most of us sort of work at jobs during the day, and then you come out of your busy life, and you need some quiet ceremonial to almost sort of shed the office or wherever it is you work. You need some quiet time to let go of all that. And the quiet listening to the prayers is all a part of that. It's preparing you to be able to turn. And then after the Naat, there's a Ney solo. And the Ney solo is really important because it's the longing of the separate self for its unified state. So as we discussed previously, when you set out on this great journey of life, you have somewhere in the background, you've got a memory of the unity that you've come from. And that unity drives all your ambitions and all your searches in life. So you're doing all these different things because you think it will bring you this deep peace that you have this vague, distant memory of. So the Ney flute, the Ney solo, is the plaintive cry of the Ney, of the soul, for its source. And Rumi in the Masnavi puts it like, listen to the reed, how it tells a tale complaining of separation, saying, ever since I was parted from the reed bed, my lament have caused man and woman to moan. I want a bosom torn by severance, that I may unfold the pain of love desire. Everyone who is left far from his source wishes back the time when he was reunited with it. And then at the end of Nay solo, you might have seen when you watched it, all the dervishes suddenly, on the first drum beat, they all hit the floor all together. And that's referred to as kun, K-U-N, and that means wake up and be. So again, it's like you've chopped off your head, so you've come out of I am something, and then with the hitting the floor and the waking up and being, it's like you're coming into your, what I would call your beingness, or your heart. So your identity is no longer in the do you know who I am. The identity is centred in what Rumi refers to as the heart. And metaphorically, the heart is sort of round here somewhere, but it's actually a symbol of your background identity or your deep background awareness. And when you turn and when you process and when you're kneeling listening to an art, for instance, your head is tilted, and that's a symbol of listening and looking into the heart. And of the heart, Rumi again says in the Masnavi, the heart is not contained in hundreds of thousands of persons, noble or common. It is in a single one. Which is he which? Leave what is only a fragment of the heart, and seek the perfect heart, in order that by means of that fragment of it, that fragment may become as a mountain. The perfect heart is encompassing the whole of this realm of existence, and scattering gold in beneficence and bounty. So what that's a bit like is, at first it appears that you're listening to this centre of your being, you're just sort of quietly looking into it, and it appears at first that it's inside you, and it appears that it's individual to you. And then the more you look into it, the more you realise that there's just one big heart which contains everything. So there aren't lots of little hearts contained within us. The whole of creation is all contained within the heart, or within the centre. So that's the significance of why we have the tilted head. And
that's right, because you're listening to the heart of all. Because you're listening to the heart of all.
You're listening to the heart. There's only one heart. So it appears to be sort of physically, metaphorically, it's down here somewhere. So you're looking into your heart, it's called. But there's only one heart. And then the clothes you wear, you have your sikhi, which is your tombstone. That's the hat you wear. There's your tombstone there. And your black cloak is your tomb. That's known as your hurka. And your tenure, that's your white robe you turn in, is your burial shroud. And Helen's also said that's from the same root word as tandoori. So it's also the oven in which you cook. And a lot of cooking goes on in tenuries, as you're discovering. But all, again, the dying symbolism, so the symbolism of a burial shroud, it's the shroud of your sense of separateness. So some traditions call it the ego. I don't actually like using ego in a sort of slightly negative connotation, because all it means is I. So what it represents is it's just the burial shroud of your sense of separateness. And your hurka is your tomb. So after the Bash Kazmak and you've all hit the floor, then you all stand up and you're still all wrapped in your dark hurkas, and you all, the sheikh bows and everyone else bows, and then the sheikh starts off leading the dervishes in 3 rounds of processing, and it's said that the sheikh is showing the dervishes all of the manifest creation. So he's sort of taking you off on this journey, and you go round the room 3 times, and as you cross the red sheepskin, you turn and you bow, and you look across the skin and you look into the eyes of the other dervish and you bow to them, and then you turn around and then you carry on walking. And I mentioned it a week or 2 ago when George was here, I think it was last time, but for me that's the most amazing bit of it, because you're seeing God in man, so you're looking into each other's eyes and you're seeing exactly the same consciousness looking back at you. Because what lies behind all of our psyches, what lies behind the mind-body vehicle, is the one consciousness. So when you look into someone's eyes, you're seeing that exact same consciousness looking back at you. And that's such an amazing thing. It's like it sort of ripples all the way down. And then the very last dervish, at the end of it, the sheikh, on the 3rd round of processing, the sheikh holds back, and the very last dervish bows to nothing. So they go across the skin, they turn around, there's no one on the other side of the skin, and they just bow to the great emptiness. So that's sort of like bowing to the great void. That again is a very moving thing. And the 3 rounds of processing each have significance. So the first round it's like there are 3 ways of gaining knowledge. And the first round is called knowledge by books. So it's knowledge by reading. And so if you want to know about something, I was discussing this with Pam, there you are, just before the ceremony. I nearly said wait till the talk. If you want to know about something, first of all, you read about it. So Mr. Rezawi used the analogy of someone who wanted to know about London. So if you know about London, first of all, you find books about London and you read about it. And then the second round of processing is you start doing visits to London. So you go and do some visits to London, and then you get to know it a bit better. So, and then the 3rd round of processing is you actually go and live in London. So it's almost like you become London. So it's 3 modes of knowledge. Reading, seeing, and then becoming. And the whole ceremony it's sort of done in 7 stages, and that represents the first 3 stages.
Does that link with I'm reading Ken and I really love him, and does that link with empirical, so the empirical knowledge, and then so the mind can look at 3 things, the mind can look at matter, and then the mind can look at mind, and then the mind can look at spirit, or something like that.
That's very nice. That's a really nice way of putting it. Ken Wilber has a very nice way of expressing it. Just checking there's nothing I've forgotten on that bit.
Could you talk a little bit more about the second? You said the first one is knowledge by reading in books. The second one is seeing. Seeing what?
Yeah. It depends what the thing you're reading about is. In the analogy, it was London.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Could be seeing anything.
Yeah, it could apply to anything. In this case, I suppose it's about the nature of reality and the nature of life. So, often early on, when I was in my teens and 20s, I read absolutely passionately everything which was available on Rumi and Uspensky and Ramana Maharshi and everyone else. So you have this great sort of passionate desire for knowledge. Then you start practicing particular methods for getting direct experience. So then it's like you start visiting that. So you have moments of intense happiness or moments of amazing stillness. And at first they're what is sometimes referred to as peak experiences. So you have these little moments when you suddenly experience what you've been reading about. And that sort of, it remains, with peak experiences, it always remains an experience. And how I'd equate this with the third thing about becoming it is you notice that it isn't an experience. What you're after is the thing which is aware of the experience, and that's always been there, but it's like you had to go on this metaphorical journey from Baghdad to Cairo and back again to realise that what you were looking for was actually what you already are, but you couldn't see that unless you had first done this metaphorical journey of going off to search for something. So to use a Ken Wilber metaphor, you have to exhaust the search. You go on a search, but you have to exhaust the search before you come back to realising that you are actually already what you were searching for.
If I remember, in Persian there are three terms which are the root of the Sufi, and one of them is, I think the first is Waqiyat, which is reality, and the third one is Haqiqat.
That comes later. I'll get on to that.
Oh, okay. So
you're jumping ahead.
Oh, I thought it was the same.
That's
thing.
all right.
Okay.
This is different. They come later. This is like the first three stages of the processing. And then we'll get on to the actual salams that you turn in. So you've done your 3 rounds of processing, and it has lovely, when you do it, the music has a nice sort of beat to it, particularly in some of the different maqams we turn to. And you're sort of doing alternating movement and stillness. So you'll notice when you learn it, you drag your foot, and there's sort of movement, and there's stillness, and there's movement. So that's almost like a symbol of the way thought and activity is like a ripple on the surface of the great stillness, the great consciousness. Some teachers refer to it as gaps between desires. I prefer a Tibetan analogy where they talk about the clouds floating across the clear blue sky. So it's almost you are the clear blue sky in which these different thoughts and perceptions float. So, but between them is these portals down into the great stillness, and that happens all the time in life. If you look at it from one direction, there's all these thoughts and there's gaps between them. If you look at it from the other direction, you are the great stillness, and there's just these thoughts and perceptions floating across it like a ripple. So that processing movement really symbolises that, because all the way around it's movement and stillness, and you sort of move in time with the music, but it's not mathematical. You don't count. It's almost feels like you're dancing. You're sort of dancing in time with the music, but it doesn't have to be absolutely precise. But you have an awareness of the beat and the rhythm as you move. But basically, you're trying to keep an equidistant between you and the turner in front of you and behind you. And as you process, your head is is in the sideways position, and from that position you can see every turner in the whole circle, so you can be aware of the spacing of the whole circle, and you're even aware of the person behind you, so you can get, but you're always midway between the turner in front and the turner behind. I can always tell when someone's fallen asleep, because you'll get a great space will appear out in front of them, and then the sort of, it becomes irregular. So you can tell when anyone's awake, because they've got this, they maintain in the perfect space as they process around the room. So, the last one, the end of the third processing, the last one bows to the great emptiness, and then you all hurriedly move round. And as Helen mentioned, this line here is known as the centre line, and it's always there across the teke, leading from the door to the below the picture. And whenever you cross the centre line, you bow. But when you're processing slowly, you'll stop just by the centre line, and you're processing, your head is to the side. Whenever you bow, your head goes forward, so you bow, not too deeply, and you come up and your head goes back to the side position and you move off again. When you just hurry back at the end of a salam, or when the processing is finished, you don't stop, you just nod your head in acknowledgement as you pass the centre line. And only the sheikh is allowed to actually stand on the centre line. So, then we come on to the different salams. So you move back onto the red carpet after processing, and then when the next piece of music starts, which is the turning music, which is what you're all turning to at the moment, on the first drum beat you all take the neck of your hurkas and kiss them and drop them behind you, and that all happens at once. And the ceremony is very well choreographed, because you should be completely covered by your hurkas and no one sees any white. So up till then the audience have only seen you as sort of black dervishes with your sikhs on. Then suddenly there's this great moment when suddenly all these dazzling white dervishes are revealed. And then in turn, and Helen will teach you this, the sheikh is standing here and the Samazambashi comes out. The Samazambashi kisses the hand of the sheikh, and the sheikh kisses the sikhi of the Samazambashi. And as each turner bows through for the first salam, you kiss the hand of the sheikh. The sheikh puts their hand out, and as you kiss it, the sheikh will kiss your sikhi. And that's the sheikh giving you permission to turn in the Mukabele. And the first period of turning, the first salam, is known as Shariat. And that was what you've been learning today, is you've been learning to divide your turning into 4 different salams. And Shariat means really external religion. And any major world religion has both an inner aspect and an outer aspect. So in Islam, for instance, you have Sharia law, and the outer aspect of religion is all to do with conduct and behaviour, and it often involves worshipping an external god. And it's also, a lot of it is mythic. So in the religion I was brought up in, which is Christianity, you have lots of mythic things like Noah's Ark and virgin births, and most of those things are things which are metaphors or symbols which have been taken as physical reality. So at the mythic level of religion, people often interpret what is really deep symbolic metaphor as literal fact. and then different traditions all have different metaphors, and then they start fighting each other over their different metaphors. Whereas if you actually look at the metaphors and see what they mean and what they're pointing to, then you see that all traditions are really one. And when you're growing up, you go through a mythic stage of development when you're sort of 4, 5, 6. And it's quite normal to believe in Santa Claus, but he can go down every chimney on Christmas Eve. But then when you grow up a bit, normally you leave the mythic stage and you no longer believe that Santa Claus can go down every chimney. But some mythic beliefs continue, often right into later life. So I've got a good friend, for instance, who literally about my age believes that Noah's Ark really happened and the animals did go in 2 by 2. So that's Shariat, and with that you have rules of conduct. And that salam is a moderately long one, and then it stops and you all bunch together, and then you hurry round again, not forgetting to nod your head as you pass the centre line, and then you bow out into the second salam, and the second salam is known as tariqat, and a tariqa is what's known as a way, so it's a path or a way. So with marifat you've got external religion, and then at a certain point, as we discussed here, being a separate self gets a bit tiresome, and you're looking for the source of this deep longing, as represented by the ney flute, and you start to look inside you. So you find a method or a way or a teacher, and that's known as tariqa. So it's this sort of movement inwards. So you might learn a method of meditation or yoga, or you might become a whirling dervish, or whatever your particular route is. So you find some sort of method for accessing the great stillness within you. And that's quite a short salam, so as you notice today you're just about got going, when phew, what a relief, it suddenly ended, and you all bunch together again. And then you go back round and you bow out again into the third salam. And the third salam is known as hakikat, and that really represents annihilation in the beloved. And the third salam, as you're discovering, is actually quite a long salam. And then normally the first two, you've sort of got your initial energy, you haven't become too tired. The first one I used to get through all right because I'd only just started turning, so I could survive that. And the second one was so short, I was just starting to get tired and it would suddenly come to an end, and I'd say phew. But the third salam, you've already used up a fair bit of energy, and it's a long salam, and in the third salam it can take you to the point of surrender. So it's like you really do have to let go and hand over to something bigger than you to get through it. And again, it's like there's a poem I quoted from Robert Bly: "We did not come to remain whole, we came to lose our leaves like the trees that are broken, and start again drawing up from the great roots." So it's like it's a mirror of the journey of life, where often around about the midlife period your life sort of completely falls to bits, and somehow you go for a bleak patch, and then somehow you get reborn, you almost rise from the ashes. So it's like your trees, and you lose your leaves, and then you start again, but you start again connecting with something much larger than yourself, which is the thing that gets you through it. So that third salam is really all about surrender and letting go and handing over. And the whole Mukabele is all about surrender and letting go and handing over. But the fact it is so physically difficult to do, and it remains difficult, it will get easier, but it will never become a doddle. You'll never think, oh, I can do that. If you go into it thinking, no, this is going to be easy, it will be absolute murder. If you go into it thinking this is going to be murder, it will be heaven on earth. So it's sort of, you can't anticipate it, and that's the way it's designed. So remember that when you're struggling a week today, next Tuesday, in the third salam, and Helen's knocking your arms up or trying to get you to spin faster. It's all about you're letting go. It's these things at the causal level we talked about, which have become sort of hard and solidified, and often limit our expression and our dance in the drama. So it's all about becoming a transparent vehicle for consciousness. So that's the third salam, Harikat. And the fourth salam is known as Marifat or Marifa. And that's a wonderful salam. I love that because you're nearly at the end, so you think, I haven't got long to go now. And so you almost get an initial burst of energy. You think, I can keep going, I can make it. I can make it to the end and still be alive. And with the fourth salam, if you remember, Helen said, you go back to where you were at the end of the third salam, and then you just turn on place. So you cease moving around the room. In the first three salams, you'd been moving around, and that was a symbol of the search. So that was like the man going from Baghdad to Cairo and back again. So you're moving and you're looking for something. In the fourth salam, the movement ceases, and you just turn on one place. And you do that because you've discovered that you are the thing you're searching for. So there's no longer any need to move around looking for something, because you've come to the realization that you are the thing you're searching for. Like in the Rumi story of the fish who swam off to find the stuff called water. And at that point, previously the sheikh has been the witness standing on the periphery of the circle. And in that respect, as Helen told you in your class today, the sheikh represents the great stillness that underlies the manifest creation. And the role of the sheikh in the ceremony is really to hold that stillness. So when the whole thing is dancing, like in manifest creation, there needs to be someone there holding the space and holding the stillness. And in the fourth salam, you'll notice the sheikh starts turning and goes out down the centre line and turns in the middle, and all the dervishes are on place turning around the sheikh. And what that represents is that the sheikh is no longer just the great stillness that witnesses the manifest creation, but the sheikh comes out and turns in the manifest creation that indicates that the underlying stillness and the manifestation are not two things. It's like consciousness is matter and matter is consciousness. The whole thing is one and the same, they're not two. So it's like there's no longer a separate great stillness witnessing. The whole dance is the manifestation and the very substance of consciousness. And then as the instrumental music finishes, and then you just get that final ney solo playing, and that sort of, it's almost now like the ceremony is unwinding and you're being drawn back into life. So the nay solo is calling you back, but you're going back into life with this great secret that you've learned. And then the nay solo ends, and the Quran is sung, and all the dervishes claps on the floor. Well, you don't clap, so you sort of move back to the outer circle, and you go down. And you go down in a very, you don't clap, so you go down in a very alert posture. So you're in the listening position and you're kneeling. And the Samas and Bashi will then get some dervishes to help put the hurkas back on. And the verses from the Quran are sung. And the reason for that is it's the unwinding of the ceremony, and you're going back to the level of Shariat, symbolised by the Quran, and that's the indication of you going back into life, but with the great secret that you've learned. And then there are some prayers there's a Samas Bashi prayer, which the Samas Bashi sings, and then the Sheikh does some prayers, and then there's the long, everyone sounds the word Hu, which I think is all the names of God rolled into one. That's a lovely moment. So it's beautifully choreographed, and it's like there's this great stillness has descended on it as the activity all dies down. And then the Sheikh first goes out and bows to the picture, and then all the other dervishes file out, and then there's just a great stillness is left, and you're going back into your daily lives. And Mr. Rezawi, who taught us it, said when the Mukabele is over, you don't go on being holy, you don't go around acting holy. We then go downstairs and have a party, because you're straight out into life. So you're not, this is so profound, you access the great stillness, but you then don't need to go around in life saying I'm holy. You just you just dance the dance of life, whatever your dance may be, but energized by this great stillness that you've experienced. So that's roughly it. Have I missed any major bits?
No, I can't think.
Some of you are looking a bit tired, so I don't want to keep you too long, because I can go over this a bit more next time.
What are the lyrics?
What are the lyrics? The lyrics, the different maqams in the music which is sung, the lyrics are all different, and you can somewhere get translations of the lyrics. But if you listen to the words being sung, it's often they're singing about Mevlana and Shems of Tabriz, and so it's sort of singing about the tradition. In the Naat, the first prayer you listen to, I think that's mainly about the tradition, because it mentions Rumi and Shems of Tabriz, and we can give you translations of that. And then there's the prayer Helen will do, which is called the Samas and Bashi's prayer. She's sort of praying again for all the saints in the tradition. So we all go down when she says Muhammad Mustafa with our hands on our heart, and then she runs through a lot of the other sheikhs who have been in the tradition, and then she prays for the liberation of the sheikh of this tekke and the liberation of all the dervishes in this tekke. And
The dancing ecstasy of immortal bliss.
I rather like the phrase the dancing ecstasy of immortal bliss. And the sheikh's prayer is similar when he records Mevlana and Shems of Tabriz, and the words are those who have fallen in the dancing ecstasy of immortal bliss. And the whole meaning of fallen is, in Sufism, they have a phrase which is die before you die, so that you will not taste death. And what that means is, like the bowing in and the Bash Kazmat, you're dying to I am something, you're dying to I'm a very important person, do you know who I am? And you're accessing your true being, or the great stillness, or the great I amness which lies behind that. And the more you notice that as your identity, the more you contemplate the I am. At the moment of death, there is no death because you've already become everything. So it's sort of like that. And this is really, again, all a symbol of die before you die. So the symbolism is all about death. As it is in some other religions, the Tibetan culture they have lots and lots of skulls and death symbolism. And it's all about dying to a soul identity with your temporal self. You want to be like a bird with two wings. You don't want to fully die to this because you want to have this to enjoy life and dance your dance. But at the same time, have a background awareness that you're more than that. And there's something behind which you are, which is totally unchanging. So that's really sort of die before you die. But while you're here, you dance your dance fully. And I'll go into that more in the next meeting. Dancing your dance fully and following your bliss.
Can I ask, what does that mean?
Oh, that's Yah Hazreti Mevlana. May God keep his secret.
Is that what will be in the ceremony? Is that?
That's the one in the ceremony. That's the one we bow to. And Mevlana, as you probably know, means our master, and it's a name given to Rumi. And it's like sheikhs and teachers and everyone is like a symbol of the absolute. So in the army, I think it said you don't salute the man, you salute the rank. And in esoteric traditions, if you bow to a sheikh or anyone, you're bowing to the great stillness which is behind the sheikh and everyone else. So it's nothing really to do with individuals. So it's not like you're not bowing to an individual. And in the ceremony, you're always kissing the floor, so you're acknowledging everything and each other as all being the manifestation of the Absolute. And later on, after your ceremony, after your graduation ceremony, there's the Mevlevi initiation is what's known as the blessing of the Sikhs, and that can be done either by a Chalabi, which is a descendant of Rumi, or the sheikh of a particular tekke. And I can do it for as many of you as who want to do it. And it's like a symbolic ceremony which has come down virtually since the time of Rumi. And that's available, but it's not compulsory. But it's like ceremonies all have a certain force and power that they carry with them. And I normally do it to groups of about 7 of you maximum before the Mukabales which follow your graduation.
It can be done after Mukabele. It has to be before the next one afterwards.
Yeah, the next one afterwards, after you have your graduation, then for the next few ceremonies, I'll take your names of who wants to have their cities blessed, and I'll do about 7 at a time for the next few ceremonies.
Sorry. Why should God keep a secret?
Why should God keep a secret? I think it's more you keep God's secret because when something's very profound and you verbalise it, it's almost like it somehow loses its profundity, and also some things can't be verbalised, so you almost have to keep it secret. But if you're a creative artist, then you dance it in your life dance, or if you're a barrister or a lawyer, you're going to dance it in your dance, so it's going to manifest in your life, and then you'll inspire other people. Any comments on that? Secret?
I thought about the word secret and for me it connects to sacred. And I think secret ceremonies or secret mantras, because I know in the Indian tradition, if you have an initiation with a guru and you're given a mantra, you keep it a secret. And they're like seeds that become, and I think that it's, for me, I think since I learnt to turn, I became more creative. It's almost like you tap into a source of energy, and it starts to flower in ways of, for me it started to flower in ways, unexpected ways. But I think there's something between, for me I would say secret and sacred have, you can't find words to express it, but like Philip says, it blossoms. Would you say that it works in that way for you with your art, in your dance?
Well, Pan asked me questions and I don't have an answer. That's why I don't know. But you said all the things I couldn't say earlier, didn't I? Yeah.
But I
Absolutely.
think it might also have done with the political conditions at the time in terms of keeping Sufism secret in a similar way to when around the time that Christianity started, there were all the cults of mysteries in ancient Rome and forms of spirituality that people went towards but had to keep concealed. Although I don't think it's only that, but it might have had to be a default condition.
With Mevlevi, they had after 1925 it had to be kept secret, because when the teches were closed it was all done on their living room carpets behind closed curtains. I think we...
Sufis that have the Book of Secrets.
Sorry?
Was it the Sufis that have the Book of Secrets?
I don't know.
I think if it wasn't a secret, we wouldn't keep doing that.
Secret is because you might experience something which you can't explain from your rational mind.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you can't explain from your rational mind, you might sound mad to someone, and you don't want to scare someone or discourage someone, because Sufism is in love. So you're in love with other people, so you don't want to discourage them from something which you might have experienced, and you don't want to sound irrational or mad to someone. Does it explain anything?
I know. I think there's lots of layers to it.
No, of course there's
But
lots of
it's
layers.
interesting that you say that, because I personally perceive that when we're doing the whirling together in our own respective universes, whirling around each other, it's all about the respect of the other in the space and not disturbing the other. Well, that's another way of looking at it.
It says Qaddas Allahu Sirra. I just read it, and I thought in the beginning the point is in keep, because the way keep. Keep is translated is not, it's not super accurate. Because maybe it's because we just say that may God keep you or something like that. But qaddasa means sort of cherish and in a holy way take care of. Like I'm trying to find the right
It's the same
word.
in English, may God keep you.
Rather than keeping it, keeping
Yeah.
it always.
That's why maybe
And
it's
the keep in a castle is the store, the safest place, the place you withdraw to when everything's at its worst and most dangerous, because it can't be penetrated.
yeah. There is a saying that Hafidh Allahu Sirra would mean literally God keep his secret, but Qaddas Allahu Sirra means cherish and like.
But that's what it means in English ultimately. May God keep you. It means to cherish and protect you.
Yes. So it doesn't mean to hide the secret. It means to like care for and cherish.
This is really interesting.
That's really helpful.
But I do think we wouldn't keep doing it if any of it could be explained really.
No.
It's not for mass marketing, right?
I know why not.
That
Something that you would.
when I turn, every time I start thinking, wow, then I lose it. So even when I verbalize it to myself, I lose the concentration.
That's classic. When you're turning and you think, oh, great, I'm turning. and it goes. Yeah. That's classic.
Well, the experience can't be had in the rational mind, nor can it be explained in the rational mind. So, how can you write it down or describe it? Or it's an internal experience, and that's it.
There's loads of books on what dance is, and nobody's got that one right yet.
Right.
Do you want to go home now?
Yeah.
Bedtime? I think next Tuesday there might not be a meeting. There might be a tube strike. Might, no?
That's what Karina, yeah. Exactly.
We'll keep you informed. There'll be a turning class, but there might not be a cosmic dance, depending on the train. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.